just about everybody but Lazowski. And then as the game went along, they lost it completely. Carolina's got to be more consistent doing that in this game, force them to have to win the game inside, because if you do that, you've got the guys inside to be able to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned putting the ball inside, and look, that's what Carolina is going to do. That's what they should do. Miami's average height on their roster is just 6'6". They've only got two guys of 6'10" or taller that have recorded stats and that will see the court tomorrow night in Miami. So I think it makes it easier for Carolina to put the ball inside and let Day'Ron Sharpe go to work. Let Armando Bacot bounce back with a big performance on the offensive end. Maybe this gets Garrison Brooks going. And that's going to be the game plan, as it should be. But, for me, Carolina at some point, what does Kerwin Walton do next? Does he take the next step? Because if he's progressing, and it appears that he is progressing, at some point or another, Caleb Love and R.J. Davis are going to take the next step. You would imagine those guys are more gifted. They are more talented. They are better basketball players in terms of talent than Kerwin Walton. So at some point, it's got to come together for them. Maybe this is a chance for them to get it going if Chris Likes is not able to go. But as we've seen this year with Carolina ACC games against State and against Georgia Tech and even against Notre Dame, Miami, albeit they're not a great team, but they've got some experienced guys. They've got some guys who know how to do it in this conference. So if the game is close, how do you finish? The last game against Notre Dame, Carolina was down 57-50. They went a 9-0 run to take the lead, and they closed the ball game out. They failed to finish at Georgia Tech. They failed to finish at NC State. I don't think they'll fail to finish at Miami. I think they'll get their second straight win and get to 500 in the ACC and get to 7-4 overall. And I think it's going to be a lot like it was on Saturday against Notre Dame. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think they're going to blow them out. I think it'll be a 2 to 3 possession ball game going into the final at the under 4 timeout. But I think they're going to make the plays they have to make to win the game because they just did it on Saturday. And usually, like with losses, how they mount, well, usually wins string together. I think Carolina's about to start stringing together some wins here.
Yeah, I really like this matchup for Carolina coming off of what they did against Notre Dame. This is another game that can be a real confidence booster because this is a Miami team that's struggling. But just like Notre Dame, this is a team that's going to be very well coached. Jim Larrañaga has, been one of the more successful guys in the ACC over the past decade. Now, the last 2 years hasn't quite been as great as some of the other years that he saw earlier in the decade. But Carolina's got to be prepared for it. That's going to want to come out and fight. In that again, just like everybody else that Carolina faces really outside of Duke and maybe NC State sometimes. This is a game that Miami cares more about this game than Carolina does. This is a game where Miami wants to be able to pull an upset and show the rest of the ACC that they are still a team that's going to cause problems, wreak havoc when they have enough talent on the floor to do so. So Carolina's got to come out ready to go in this game. I think they will. It'll be a really good test for Carolina, but I feel like this is definitely a game that Carolina can win, and I think they will on the road at Miami to string together 2 consecutive wins and give them a little bit of confidence as they try to keep adding up some wins on the front part of the schedule, which is still, even with the struggles of the ACC, a little bit easier than the back end.
All right, there you go. Both me and Anthony picking a Tar Heel victory tomorrow night in Miami. With that, we'll go ahead and start shutting down this edition of the podcast. Before we let you go, talk to you about our website, HeelToughBlog.com. It was a busy weekend for the website as Carolina was in action on the basketball court. As we took you through the Notre Dame game, Mark Krings had the recap. I had Marlowe's music. You can check that out on HeelToughBlog.com. And then Carolina was in the Orange Bowl. They fell to A&M on Saturday, 41-27. You can read the recap. The Trench Report and a stock report will all be available on HeelToughBlog.com. And last, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast across every major podcasting platform, most notably Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Pandora. Give us a like, give us a review. Most importantly, we want you guys to subscribe, though, to get every episode in your podcast feed. Well, with that, well, thank Anthony for coming and take some time out of today to talk a little Carolina basketball. We thank you guys for listening, and as always, go Tar Heels!